Hello everybody, welcome to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and this is Lecture 12, Process Costing System. At the end of the video, you should be able to define process costing system and differentiate it from job order costing, calculate for the equivalent units of production, and prepare a cost of production report and cost allocation. This is your lecturer, Kevin Troy M. Chua. Before anything else, please like, share, and subscribe to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH and hit the notification bell button to alert you of the latest video lessons. For all of your questions, comments, and suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And for webinar and speakership invites, please send me a message at kevintroy1994@gmail.com. Thank you very much for your utmost support for Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and may these videos continue to help students in their online learning and academic development. May these videos continue to help teachers in enhancing their lesson plans and teaching methodologies. Thank you very much for trusting Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH as your online learning partner. Maraming salamat po. In the last lesson, we discussed about the job order costing system, ano po yung cost flow natin sa kanila, paano po tayo mag-assign ng materials, labor, and overhead into specific job orders or job batches. And now, we are ready to move on to another costing system, which is process costing system. Oftentimes, the production of manufactured products is easily divisible into specific jobs. So, meron po tayong mga unique orders or batches. That's why, ang ginagamit po natin for those kinds of orders or production process ay job order costing system. Yun nga lang po, meron pong mga production processes or manufacturing companies na ang kanilang mga binibentang produkto ay homogeneous, halos pare-pareho. Kung di man halos pare-pareho, talagang pare-pareho at maramihan ang gawa. Na ang nangyayari po, dumadaan siya from one process to another department, and to another department. So basically, yung mga ganun pong setup, medyo mahirap pong i-apply ang job order costing system. For example, wood pulp is being processed into giant rolls of paper. So yung mga giant rolls of paper na yun, halos pare-pareho naman yun na itsura, di ba? Refineries, nagpa-process ng crude oil into gasoline, iron ore, making it into steel, sand is being processed into glass. Yung ating milk and other ingredients nagiging ice cream. So, yung mga ganyang pong produkto, medyo mahirap pong applyan ng job order costing system dahil it's a bit of a challenge for the cost accounting department na i-trace isa-isa yung direct labor and direct materials na associated dun sa magiging final output natin. Dahil, in the first place, homogeneous yung ating mga produkto, talagang pare-pareho, no? So parang hindi po applicable na gamitan natin ng job order costing system because job order costing system is being used more on those that are unique or pwede natin siyang hatiin into batches, yung mga ganon, no? So kapag ka po ang ating mga produkto ay homogeneous, halos pare-pareho, kung di man halos pare-pareho, talagang pare-pareho at talagang dumadaan siya into a series of different processes and departments, gagamit po tayo ng process costing system. And to define process costing system, it is a methodology used in cost accounting to allocate the total cost of production to homogeneous units produced via a continuous process that usually involves multiple steps or departments. So, ibig sabihin daw po in cost accounting, gagamit po tayo ng process costing system kung ang ating pong mga produkto ay pare-pareho, tulad po ng ice cream na nakikita po ninyo, hindi ba pare-pareho ng flavor, pare-pareho ng dami, at pare-pareho ng sugar cone, hindi ba? At ang dinadaanan niya ay continuous process na ano po ang dinadaanan? Multiple steps or multiple departments. Yung ingredients ng ice cream, imimix muna yan. Tapos, i-freeze ng konti para pag nilagay na natin sa cones, medyo frozen na siya. Tapos, i-freeze uli yan hanggang sa ipapackage natin until maging finished product. So, pare-pareho yung ating mga produkto, pero it involves numerous stages, numerous departments. Doon nyo po siya gagamitan ng process costing system. Okay, so let me show you how a process costing system works in the cost accounting department through a simple T account representation. Kung titignan nyo mabuti, meron tayong work in process department, process 1, 2, and 3. So let's assume na yung manufacturing company na to ay merong 3 proseso na dinadaanan. Pwedeng for example, yung process number 1 ay assembly department. Doon ina-assemble lahat. Tapos department process 2, painting. O di doon pinipinturahan lahat. Tapos department process 3, packaging na po siya hanggang sa maging finished goods. So isa po sa dapat nyong malaman pag process costing system, kada isang proseso or kada isang step na dinadaanan ng produkto sa production process ay meron pong sariling work in process account. Okay? Sige po, ganito po ang nangyayari. Siyempre po, like any other manufacturing system, meron po tayong materials na ipapasok sa production, labor and overhead naman po to convert the products into being finished goods, diba? So, ganun lang din po, parang yun na pag-aralan nyo dati, materials, labor, and overhead will be debited to work in process to start the production process. In Department 1 nga lang kasi proseso yung pagdadaanan natin. Pag natapos na po ang proseso natin sa Department 1, the cost of completed units in Department 1 will be transferred saan? Sa Department 2. Okay? E di syempre, dito sa Department 2, may proseso rin siyang dadaanan and there is also a possibility that there will be additional materials and then syempre, additional conversion cost na dadaanan mo dyan, no? So, kapag ka po natapos na yung proseso natin sa process number 2 or sa department number 2, the cost of completed units in department 2 will be transferred to department 3. At syempre, sa department number 3, baka meron ka pa uling additional dyan na materials, labor, and overhead. Okay? So, pag natapos yung proseso niya sa department 3, the cost of completed units in department 3, syempre, tapos na. Sana natin ilalagay? Transfer na natin sa finished goods inventory. And syempre, pag naibenta na, debit natin ang cost of goods sold, i-credit natin sa finished goods inventory. So basically, in process costing system, ay meron po tayong different work in process ledger accounts kung ilan po ang proseso na dinadaanan ng produkto. Pag natapos sa Department 1, transfer natin ang cost sa Department 2. Dagdagan natin ng mga applicable materials, labor, and overhead at pag natapos po, lagay po uli natin yung cost na ita-transfer natin from Department 2 to Department 3 hanggang matapos ang proseso. Yan po ang pinaka-simple representation ng ginagawa po natin pag process costing system. Okay, so let's talk about the different steps that we need to follow in process costing system. The first one is i-analyze po natin ang cost flow model ng lahat ng inventory levels natin. Number 1, beginning balance of work in process inventory ng isang department. Sir, bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng work in process? Proseso naman yan eh. Yun na nga eh. Kasi, syempre, inaabutan tayo ng end of the accounting period. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng beginning balance ng work in process inventory. Ano yung beginning balance na yan? Yan po yung mga hindi pa nakumpleto in the previous period kaya na-bring siya sa next accounting cycle. Okay? And that will serve as your beginning balance of work in process. Number 2, syempre, meron din po tayong mga units na inumpisahan dun mismo sa period na yon, current period dun sa department na yon. Number 3, dun po sa beginning work in process and the units that we started in that department, how much of them or how many of them has been completed. And syempre, ang number 4, kung merong completed, yung mga hindi pa completed ay ilalagay po natin sa units not yet finished or yan po yung ending work in process inventory which is next period, i-bring mo uli siya as beginning work in process. Now, the step 2 in process costing is determining the equivalent units of production. Ang ginagawa po kasi natin sa process costing system, it's a bit hard for the cost accountants to determine the amount of materials, labor, and overhead kada isang produkto. Oo nga naman kasi homogeneous ang produkto natin, pare-pareho at talagang maramihan ang gawa, no? So ang ginagawa po natin sa process costing system is nag-a-assign po tayo ng equivalent units of production. Let me give you an example. If the ending work in process inventory is 1,000 units, o 1,000 units daw po yung hindi pa tapos, okay? Ang sabi, the materials were already added at the beginning of the production process, but the conversion cost, which is labor and overhead, is only 60% complete. So what is the equivalent units of production? As for materials, since it's already added at the beginning of the process, 1,000 units times 100%, 1,000 units is being represented as equivalent units of production for your materials. However, because those 1,000 units is only 60% complete as to your conversion cost, labor and overhead is only 600 units as to the equivalent units of production. Now, the whole units that you are actually doing na hindi pa tapos is totoo naman, physically 1,000. But in process costing system, titignan natin ilang percent na ba talaga siyang tapos. Yun po ang equivalent units niya. Okay? Pero, magkaiba po ang equivalent units of production sa process costing system sa talagang physical units. Hindi naman po kasi porke sinabing 60% complete, kamay nung teddy bear, wala pa. Okay? So, hindi po siya ganun, no? Ang tinitingnan po natin doon is the percentage itself nung labor and overhead, ilang percent na siyang tapos. A-assign na natin ng equivalent units of production. Okay? So that is step 2 in your process costing system. Step 3 is to calculate all of the applicable direct cost and indirect cost that was incurred in the production process so that these costs will be assigned later to the equivalent units as to the completed units and the in-process units. Kukunin po natin lahat ng cost na na-incur natin during the period kasi yan po yung ating i-assign sa mga equivalent units of production natin. Relevant cost in this scenario includes all costs associated with beginning inventories and syempre po lahat ng current period cost na ginastos natin para maipagpatuloy at matapos ang production process. Step 4. Calculate the cost per equivalent unit of production or the cost per EUP. So, to get the cost per EUP, you get the applicable cost in the production process, kung magkano po yung na-incur natin na cost in the production process, and we will be dividing it by the equivalent units of production. And step 5 is, when cost per EUP is available, allocate all relevant costs to the products completed and products still in process. So, mag-a-assign po tayo ng cost dun sa mga products na natapos na at dun sa ating ending work in process inventory. I understand that it's a bit hard for you to grasp the steps. Hirap pang imagine, di ba? But later, we will be having a sample problem so that you will understand what we need to do. Okay? Now, we have two methods in process costing system. So, we have weighted average method and the first in, first out method. Pag weighted average method, it's like how we do it in intermediate accounting na kinukuha natin lahat ng beginning inventories at lahat ng pinrocess during the period. Tas ang i-assign mong cost sa kanya is magkasama din yung beginning balance ng cost and yung current production cost. Talagang yun yung pagsasama-samahin mo lahat. Ang i-assign mo sa weighted average method is, as in lahat ng cost na na-incur. Unlike in, first out method, ganun din po ang sistema natin dyan pag first in, first out method. Una-una. So, we are very particular talaga kung ilang percent na yung natatapos dun sa materials, ilang percent ng labor yung ginawa natin dito sa department na to, ilang percent lang ng conversion cost or ng overhead, rather, yung ating na ilagay doon. So, we will be very particular pag first in, first out method. Unlike in weighted average method, pwede natin pagsama-samahin. Okay? So, you will get it more kapag po tayo ay nag-work na into a problem. And now that I've mentioned a problem to you, let's have this sample problem that will represent how we do it in process costing system. So, please download the process costing sample problem po na PDF file. The link is available in the description box. Yan po ang gagamitin nating problem para po sa ating discussion ng process costing system, because I cannot put the whole problem here in the screen. It will be a bit small. No, that is adapted from Cost Accounting Foundations and Evolutions, 8th edition by Michael R. Kinney and Cecily A. Ryborn, and that's chapter 6 in the textbook, page 238. Actually, the whole solution is also provided in the chapter 6 of the textbook, but I did my computations here in the screen so that I will be teaching them to you. But this is again adapted from that textbook, and special thanks to Professor Kinney and Professor Ryborn for this wonderful example, but I will be the one to explain them to you. Okay, so if you have that textbook, I think you were able to look at that already, but we will be doing the demonstration problem, which is company PC in the in your handouts. Okay, so pwede nyo pong i-download at i-print or i-screenshot or i-save sa phone. Basta ang mahalaga po is while you are watching this video, hawak nyo rin po yung demonstration problem para nakikita nyo po kung paano ginagawa yung cost of production report sa screen, at tinitignan nyo rin po yung given na amounts dun sa demonstration problem or sa sample problem natin. Kasi mahirap po na papanoorin nyo lang yung solution na hindi nyo tinitingnan yung tanong. So please, again, download the handout. Again, it's available in the description box for your download, and then print it or save it in a tablet or your phone or open your laptop. So medyo gawan nyo ng paraan na makikita nyo both yung calculations in the screen as you watch along with the video and the question in itself. Okay, so if you're ready, I will be reading some points of the problem. Company PC manufactures golf bags at dalawa daw po yung departments nila, which is assembly and finishing. Weighted average daw po ang ginagamit natin sa assembly department, and the percentage of completion of overhead is unrelated to direct labor. So hindi daw po magkasama as conversion cost si overhead at si direct labor. While the second department, which is finishing department, is FIFO method naman po, wherein ang application daw po natin ng overhead is nakadepende sa kung paano po ang direct labor. So pwede po natin siyang pag-isahin na conversion cost. Okay? And then you are being given of the following production data, which is in units for the assembly department, and the cost associated in the assembly department, the units in the finishing department, and the cost in the finishing department. Now, in our sample problem, we will be preparing a cost of production report for both of the departments, which is assembly and finishing, and then the T accounts to show the flow of cost, and we will be also preparing journal entries relevant to the process that we did today. Okay, let's start. Let's first prepare the cost of production report for the assembly department. So, like any other accounting internal reports, you can include a heading. So, company P or company PC or whatever, then cost of production report for the assembly department for the production period June 20XX. Okay, the first thing you need to do is you do this column or heading rather, which is the number of units applicable, and then the equivalent units of production as to materials, labor, and overhead. This is the first thing that you need to do. The first thing that you need to do is to analyze the cost, right? Or sorry, the number of units that you have worked on. Okay. Now, the beginning work in process inventory for the assembly department is 250 units. And the number of units that was started in that specific department is 8,800. So, what you will be putting in your mind is that I have 250 units more to finish, and I already started 8,800 units. So my goal is that I need to process 9,050 units in this department for this period. Now, for accounting reports, this is actually should be reconciled, no? However, for purposes of problem solving, we are doing it the squeezing technique. So we will be doing it like this. Now, if the units that we need to account for is 9,050 units, then the units that we really need to account at the end of the period should also be 9,050. Now, if you will be looking at the problem, in the assembly department, the ending work in process is 400 units. So we will be working back. The ending work in process inventory for the next period na ipaprocess siya doon na is 400 units. So, if you think about it, if we are working on 9,050 units, and we are not yet done with the 400 units, it means that we are already done with 8,650 units. However, we need to look at the breakdown. Diyan po sa 8,650 units na yan, ilang units ang galing sa beginning work in process inventory ang natapos na, at dun sa inumpisahan na natin nung period na to, ilan po yung natapos. So, if we have already completed all 250 units from the beginning work in process inventory, then dun po sa inumpisahan natin na 8,800 units, ang natapos pa lang po natin dyan is 8,400. Okay? So, ganun po siya. Which is 8,650 less 250. Yung started during the period na na-complete din po natin ngayong period na to is 8,400 units. Okay? We are ready to assign equivalent units of production. Ang sabi ko po sa inyo kanina, in the weighted average method is we have no checking ng talagang strict na pagpasok or paglabas ng units and ng cost, unlike sa first in first out method. So parang ang mindset mo, the beginning work in process inventory of 250 units is already completed. So as to materials, the equivalent units is also 250. Tapos na eh, 'di ba? And then for labor, syempre, ulaan nyo, syempre 250 din, di ba? And for overhead, 250. Bakit? Ang mindset natin, tapos na, no? Di ba ganyan din sa financial accounting? Kapag ka inventories, weighted average method, pagsasama-samahin lang natin lahat ng inventory, tas i-assign natin yung cost nila based sa cost nilang lahat. Ganon. So, ganon din po gagawin natin sa lahat ng units that we have already started and completed. All of those are completed already, 8,400. We will be very particular in the flow of cost and conversion of the products sa ending work in process inventory. So if you look at the problem, the ending work in process inventory tells us that it's already 100% complete as to direct materials. So kung 100% complete na siya sa direct materials, ibig sabihin ang ginawa mo in that department during that period is really 100% materials. So, 400 units times 100%, that is 400 equivalent units. For direct labor, it's only 70% completed. So, 400 times 70%, the equivalent units for labor is 280. And then for overhead is 90% complete. So you did 90% of the 400 units. So the equivalent units for overhead is 360 equivalent units. Although you really have 400 units physically, but the equivalent units is only 90%, which is 360. Okay? Then you get the total of all of them. So for materials is 9,050 equivalent units. For labor is 8,930 equivalent units. And for overhead is 9,010 equivalent units. Okay? Now, the next step is if you already get or if you already have your equivalent units of production, we will be now computing for the cost per equivalent unit of production. Okay? Or the cost per EUP. Okay, so you just need to copy the cost information that is given to you in the problem. So beginning inventory has a total of $4,695, and the breakdown is already given to you as to M, L, and O. And then your current period cost, which is $191,607, and the breakdown as to materials, labor, and overhead is also given to you. So you get the total of all of those costs, and ang kailangan daw po nating i-account na cost for this department is $196,302. Okay? So what you need to do is you need to divide the materials, labor, and overhead cost to the EUP or the equivalent units of production. Pag dinivide nyo po yan, may lalabos na po kayong cost per EUP. Okay? So $104,075 divided by 9,050 equivalent units. The cost per EUP for materials is $11 $21.50. That's also the way that you will be doing in labor, which is the cost per EUP in labor is 7.20 and for overhead is 3.10 for a total cost per EUP of $21.80. If you already have your cost per EUP, you are ready to assign cost to the production. Okay, so let's go back to the completed cost of production report for the assembly department. Okay, this is how you do your cost assignment. Okay, so mag-a-assign na tayo ng cost based sa nangyari sa assembly department. Remember that we already have units completed and transferred out. When we say transferred out, the units are already done in the department. That's why we transferred it out going to the next department, which is the finishing department. Ilan po ang units na tinransfer na natin sa next department dahil tapos na siya? Ito po, yung 8,650 units. So all you have to do is to multiply your 8,650 units by the total cost per EUP, which is $21.80, for a total cost na transfer natin sa next department, which is 188,570. So yan po yung cost na inassign natin sa lahat po ng natapos na sa department na ito. We will also be assigning costs as to your ending work in process inventory. Okay, so the equivalent units for your materials is 400 units. You multiply it by the cost per EUP for materials, which is 11.5, which gives you $4,600. And then for labor, it's 280 units multiplied by 7.2, which is 2016. And then for your overhead is 360 equivalent units multiplied by 3.1, which is 1,116. Get the total of all of them. The cost of ending inventory or the ending work in process inventory for the assembly department is 7,732. So if in the problem you are being asked, in the assembly department, how much is the total cost of all completed goods that was transferred to the finishing department? Your answer would be 188,570. And if in the problem you are being asked, how much is the cost of the ending work in process inventory in the assembly department? Your answer is 7,732. Now, let's see. If the total cost that you need to account for is 196,302, let's see if we have already accounted that completely. Tingnan natin kung tama. So, all you have to do is to add 188,570 plus 7732. You will get total cost as accounted 196,302. So, dapat po yung dalawang yan ay magtutugma. Ibig sabihin po, yung total cost na na-incur natin for the assembly department is maayos nyo pong na-assign sa production process. Okay? So, that is our cost of production report, cost per EUP, and cost assignment para po sa ating assembly department. And we're now ready to move on with the finishing department. Okay, so let's look at the problem again. Remember, in the finishing department, related po si labor and overhead, no, sa application. So we can just use the heading conversion cost for it. Okay, and in the finishing department, our assumption in the problem is they are using the first in, first out method. So we will really be particular with the flow of units and the flow of cost in this scenario. Okay, so you just put again your headings, cost of production report for the finishing department. Now, medyo maiiba po yung ating heading kasi meron na po tayong tinatawag na TN. Ano po yung TN? Transferred in. Remember that the finishing department is the second department na dinadaanan natin. So we need to account din po yung equivalent units of production related to the transferred in. At ano po yung transferred in? Galing sa assembly department papunta ng finishing department. Okay? Now, the beginning inventory for the finishing department is 100 units. And then, ang tinransfer daw po natin na syempre sa finishing department, yun yung inumpisahan natin, is 8,650. Familiar? Ano po yung 8,650 na yan? Yan po yung transferred out galing sa assembly department. Kasi ang natapos po natin sa assembly department is 8,650 units. So, yun yung ita-transfer natin sa finishing department. So, ano po kaya or ilang units kaya yung kailangan nating i-account for the finishing department? So, you just add the two. We need to account for 8,750 units. So, if we need to account for 8,750 units, at the end of the process, dapat yan talaga yung ating nasa records, di ba? Now, in the units that we need to account, which is 8,750, the ending work in process inventory that will be required for the next period processing in the problem is 200 units. So, if we have worked on 8,750 units and 200 units is still not completed, then the number of units completed is 8,550. Now, if the beginning work in process inventory that is already completed in that department is 100, then the transferred in of 8,650 na natapos lang ngayon, inumpisahan at natapos din ngayong period na to is 8,450. Okay? Ganun po siya. Parang kanina lang din, di ba? Chine-check natin kung ilang units yung inumpisahan natin at ilang units dun sa inumpisahan natin yung natapos. Diba? Tingnan nyo mabuti. Ilang units yung inumpisahan natin? 8,650. Pero dun sa inumpisahan natin, ilan yung natapos? 8,450 lang. So, 8,650 minus 8,450, yun yung 200. Ganun talaga yun. Okay? Kasi yung 100, natapos mo na. Okay? Now, in the EUP calculations for the finishing department, since we are using the FIFO method, we will really be particular with the percentages. Kasi nga, first in, first out. So, una-una. Pati records natin, ganun din. Una-una. Okay. So, if you look at the problem again, it tells you that if in the finishing department, the beginning work in process inventory is 100% complete for transferred in. So, if 100% complete na siya sa transferred in, may gagawin ka pa ba this period? Tapos na nga, 100% complete, di wala na. 0. How about for the 15% complete as to direct materials? Dumating yung beginning work in process inventory sa period na yan na 15% completed pa lang. So, ilang percent ang kailangan mo pang i-work on for this period? Yung kabaliktaran, 85%. So, 100% times 85%, that is 85. And then, it's only 40% complete as to conversion, so you need to work more for 60%. So, 100 units times 60% is 60. However, yung natapos mong 8,450, totoo naman, tapos mo agad talaga. So, lahat is 8,450. And then, the same thing that we did in the assembly department kanina sa ating ending work in process. So, kung 200 units at 100% complete as to transferred in, then it's certainly 200. Okay? And then, if it's 30% complete for the direct materials, ibig sabihin, in the finishing department, you worked for 30% for that. So, 200 times 30% is 60. And 65% complete for conversion. So, 200 times 65%, 130. Okay, so in-explain ko sa inyo kung paano laruin yung percentages. Actually, ayoko tong ituro sa inyo, no? Baka masanay kayo dito. Pero, ito kasi yung kabisote style niyan, no? Kapag ka po, FIFO method at kinokomputan nyo ng EUP, yung beginning work in process inventory, ang mindset nyo lang lagi is ilan pa bang percent yung gagawin ko sa period na to. So, syempre, yung kabaliktaran. So, kung tapos na siya, may gagawin pa ba ako? Wala na. O kung 15% pa lang tapos, ilan pa idadagdag ko? 85%. Kaya 85 to. Unlike sa ending work in process, dahil ending work in process yan, kasi current period yung pinag-uusapan natin dyan eh. So, kung talagang 100% yung natapos, talagang 100%. So, ano yung sinasabi kong kabisote style? Pag beginning work in process inventory, binabaliktad ang percentage. Kapag ka ending work in process inventory, sinusunod yung percentage. Okay? Ulitin ko ha. Kapag ka po beginning work in process inventory, binabaliktad yung percentage. Pag ending work in process inventory, sinusunod yung percentage. Pero, may isa akong reminder. Titingnan nyo mabuti sa problem kung ang materials ay added at the beginning of the production or minsan pwedeng at the end of the production or incurred evenly in the production. So, titingnan nyo mabuti, ha? Kasi hindi kayo compute ng mga percentage. So, pag-ingatan nyo mabuti yung mga problem, okay? So, going back to our problem, we get the total EUP for transferred in is 8,650, for materials is 8,595, and for conversion cost is 8,640. Okay? So, we're now ready to compute for your cost per EUP. Para po sa ating cost per EUP, concern lang po kasi natin kapag ka FIFO. Dahil nga po FIFO, una-una. So, we're more concerned on the current costs only. So, lista lang natin si total cost of beginning work in process inventory, which is 2,301. And then, lista natin lahat as to current period cost. Kasi nga po, pag FIFO method, ang concern natin is more on the current period cost. Okay? We need to account for 227,942, but you will only be dividing the EUP to the current period costs only. Okay? Bakit po current period cost lang? Remember, paano po ba natin kinuha yung mga EUP? Di ba current production lang din? Nung tapos na yung materials kanina ng 15%, di ba ang in-account na lang natin yung 85% na winner nung time na to? Di ba yung conversion cost tapos na siya ng 40%? Di ba yung 60% na lang yung in-account natin? So, lahat yun ay current period lang na pangyayari. Kaya, sa FIFO method, we are just more concerned on the current period cost. Okay? So, you divide the current period cost to the EUP and you get your cost per EUP for transferred in, for materials, for conversion cost, and then you get the total. Okay? So, we're ready to assign cost to production. Medyo madugo lang po ang cost assignment pag FIFO kasi nga po, we are much more particular, no, with the current cost. Okay? So, for the cost assignment for the FIFO method, you do it like this. The beginning work in process inventory balance is as you see it at nasa problem din naman po, talagang 2,301. Bakit nakalista siya separately? Kasi hindi naman siya inassign sa current period cost at sa current period EUP. Wala siya, di ba? Dahil ang inassign lang natin, tinan nyo mabuti, ang inassign lang naman nating cost per EUP galing sa current period cost So, you need to account for that separately. Okay? And then, syempre, next thing that we do is cost to complete the beginning work in process, which is ito po, at ito po. Okay. So, what happened is, as to transferred in, wala na pong equivalent units yun. So, 0. And then, sa materials naman po natin is 85 units times 1.8. Ito po yun, which is 153. And then, syempre, as to conversion cost, 60 equivalent units times 2.5. Okay? So, ang nagastos daw po to complete the beginning work in process for the current production cycle is 303. So, ito daw po yung cost ng beginning work in process na natapos na. At yan po yung beginning work in process na tinransfer na natin sa finished goods, 2,604. Pero wag niyong kalilimutan, meron tayong started and completed during the period. Ano po yung started and completed? Inumpisahan ngayon at ngayon din natapos sa period na to, which is ito po yon, yung 8,450. So you simply multiply 8,450 equivalent units to the total cost per EUP, which is 26.10, which is 220,545. Now, what you need to do is to add 220,545 dito sa 2,604. Kasi, yan po yung mismong cost ng lahat ng natapos dito sa finishing department na tinransfer na natin to finished goods, which is 223,149. So, if you will be asked in the problem na how much is the total completed goods in the finishing department that was transferred to finished goods inventory, yan po yung cost ng lahat ng natapos. 223,149. And then the usual thing that we do, ganun din po, mag-a-assign tayo ng cost sa ending work in process. Syempre po, we have 200 units as to transferred in, which is times 21.8. And then, meron din po tayong 60 units. this one, times 1.8 for materials, and syempre, wag kalimutan, we also have 130 units for conversion cost, which is 2.5, 325. Okay? So, the total cost of ending work in process inventory in the finishing department is 4,793. I-check natin kung properly na-account ba natin yung 227,942. So, pag pinag-add nyo lahat yan, dapat lalabas yung accounted for cost natin na 227,942. How much is the cost of ending work in process inventory in the finishing department? Ito po yung sagot, 4,793. How much is the cost of completed goods that was transferred to the finished goods inventory T account? Ito po, yung 223,149 na natapos nating gawain. And that is our cost of production report for the finishing department. Okay? Sige. Punta tayo ng requirement number 3, yung ating mga T-account, no? So, ito po yung ating mga cost assignments both on assembly and finishing department. Paano po ba nangyayari sa mga T-account? If you will be looking back sa ating pong assembly department cost, ang beginning work in process inventory daw po is 4,695. Okay? And then, syempre, ang nangyari po kasi is ang current period cost na pinasok daw po natin in the work in process inventory for the assembly department is nandyan din po, 191,607. Pero nung may natapos na po tayo, ang natapos daw pong products na ita-transfer natin sa next department is 188,570. Okay? So, dahil nilipat na po to sa next period, ang ending balance po natin is 7,732. Nagtutugma po ba na ang ending work in process inventory po natin in the assembly department is 7,732? Yes po. Ito po, 7,732. Okay? Ngayon po, in finishing department naman po, ang beginning work in process natin sa kanya is 2,301. At ito po yung transferred in natin, which is 188,570. Saan po galing to? Ito po yan. Yung transferred out sa assembly, papasok natin sa finishing, 188,570. And then, add po natin yung current period cost natin as to materials and conversion. Yan po yung nasa problem na 15,471 and 21,600. DMN conversion. Pero syempre po, may matatapos ka rin dyan sa finishing department. Magkano yung natapos? Ito po. Yung ilalagay natin sa finished goods inventory kasi tapos na siya, 223,149. So, makocompute nyo po yung ending balance which is 4,793. Malalaman yung tama yung T-account nyo kung kapareho niya yung cost assignment na ginawa nyo, which is the ending balance of the work in process inventory for the finishing department is 4,793. Sa finished goods inventory naman po, kung ano yung beginning inventory, lagay mo lang po doon yung tapos na, which is 223,149. Ito po yan. 223,149 going here. Yan. And then, syempre, may mabibenta ka. Cost of goods sold po yun. So, kung ano man pong kalabasan dyan sa T-account na yan, yun yung ending balance po natin. Okay? And then these are the journal entries, but I will be leaving those journal entries po sa inyo. Kayo po ang mag-trace sa ating problem kung paano po siya in-entry. Kasi it's the same process kung paano po tayo gumawa ng journal entry sa manufacturing process, pero may makikita po kayo dyan katulad po nito na galing sa assembly department, nilipat na po sa finishing department. Okay, so I'll be leaving those journal entries to you for your study. And thank you very much for listening and not only listening but listening attentively to this lesson. Sana naintindihan nyo po yung ating examples ng process costing. And our next lesson is our last lesson for the cost accounting and control subject, which is standard costing system. Again, before anything else, bago nyo po patayin ang videong ito. Please like, share, and subscribe to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH and hit the notification bell button to alert you of the latest video lessons. For all of your questions, comments, and suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And for webinar and speakership invites, please send me a message at kevintroy.chua1994@gmail.com. This has been Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH College Edition. This is Cost Accounting and Control. To God be all the glory, honor, and praise. Thank you and have a great day. Reach for your dreams. Hiraya Manawari.